Hello, my friends. Welcome to the second episode of Real Deal. This is our weekly news show, and we are going to be covering all the crazy entertainment news that came out during the week. So let's get right to it. Before we do that, though, of course, I am Andrew Fantasia, and if you enjoy this show and the other shows on my channel, please feel free to give me a like and give some love to that subscribe button so I can keep making beautiful videos for you. So let's get right to it. The first big news story that everybody is flapping their gums about is the Avengers Infinity War final trailer. It's out. We've all seen it. It's done. We're good. We walked away and we said, you know what? That looked all right. I'm at the point, I was going to see this movie regardless. So when it comes to big movies like this, like Infinity Wars and what have you, I'll watch the trailers almost like with one eye because like I want to see it, but I don't want to see things. I don't want things spoiled for me. This was, though, a very solid trailer for what I'm sure is going to be a very solid movie. But let's talk about one thing in this trailer that really captured my attention. That scene at the very end where Thanos has got his gauntlet and I don't know what he's trying to do, but Cap is holding him back with both hands and he's like, you're not going to get the best of me. That tells me that something bad is going to go down there. Trust me, I've got a line of reasoning. I'm not just pulling this out of my butt. But we're all expecting this movie to have a pretty big body count. I mean, it's got a pretty big cast, so if they want to give us some stakes, I would assume Thanos is going to kill some folks. Tony Stark has been the favorite to get the axe by the end of this movie, and I still think he will. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see Cap go either. Captain America is strong. He's a strong guy. I couldn't beat him in an arm wrestle. But he's about half the size of Thanos, and Thanos is, Captain America's strength comes from a little drug he took once, whereas Thanos is like cosmically strong, and now he's got magic gems and a big glove too. So that image that they gave us of Cap having to use both hands to grab hold of Thanos' one hand and push him away, coupled with the fact that looks like it takes place in Wakanda, which is happening, as far as we've been able to gather, the Wakanda sequences at the end of this movie. I think I'm going all out and saying that in that scene, Cap bites it. He's great, and he's strong, and he's a powerful dude, but that's Thanos, man. And those are Infinity Stones. You saw what those stones could do. I don't believe Cap is long for this world. If that trailer proved anything, it's just that this is going to be a death-heavy movie. Marvel has introduced so many new characters just in Black Panther alone, in terms of just bringing new folks into the mythology. So there's not a lot of wiggle room left. There's a lot of people crowding the area. If people gotta go, I think Iron Man and now definitely Cap are on that list. But I'm also, before we move on, I'm going to throw two curveballs at you. Two more deaths that I think are going to happen in this movie. Nebula, because her whole thing is, I gotta kill my dad. So I think, she's going to help. She's going to help kill Thanos, but it's going to, be the last thing she ever does. And the second death that I think is a shoo-in, this guy's not long for this world at all, would be Vision. And it's just because Vision is just too powerful. Unless, maybe taking the stone out would kill him anyway. But unless it doesn't, and he still somehow survives that, I don't think he's going to make it to the end of this. Because that is just, he's got a lot of powers. He can pick up Thor's hammer. He's like almost this perfect being. And you got to take perfect beings down a notch or two. So, sorry, Vision, but I don't envision a future with you in it. And now moving on to the second big trailer that dropped this week, Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald, and we saw, wait for it, drumroll, Hogwarts. Hogwarts is back. It looks a little different. I think by the time Harry Potter rolls his way through those front doors, they've got a few new towers up on the castle. We saw Hogwarts, we saw Dumbledore, we saw, looked like the Aurors, the Ministry of Magic coming after him. This is what I wanted to see from Fantastic Beasts. When you tell me there's a series coming out, which I think this is going to be 5. I'm still not 100% sure on that, but I've been hearing 5 movies. when you tell me we're getting a series of 5 movies set in the wizarding world of Harry Potter, I want to see world building and expansion and all that crazy fun stuff. And we got a lot of that in the first Fantastic Beasts, but the majority of it was very low-key, very intimate. Newt Scamander in a park with a rhino. That sounds like the answer to a game of Clue. But this is looking more and more like one of those, the back half of the Harry Potter saga where it gets really adult really fast and they throw in a lot of crazy wizard politics, and I love all that shit. So bring it on, baby. The one issue I had with this trailer was Albus Dumbledore. It's Jude Law who's playing him, and that's great. I love Jude Law. But it doesn't look like they tried to make him resemble a young Dumbledore. Instead, it just looks like Jude Law, the wand. It's like they just plucked him right out of The Holiday and gave him a wand and said, okay, you're a wizard now. And he's like, okay. So I really need to see this character in action before I can say, yep, that's my Dumbledore. That's him. Jude Law's facial hair notwithstanding, this was a sexy trailer. I cannot wait for the crimes of Grindelwald to happen. I can't wait for the actual... I'm not saying I can't wait for the crimes to happen, because I'm sure that they're going to be very horrible things. Dark wizards are mean. Next, if you are a fan of A Wrinkle in Time and superheroes, then you are in luck, my friend, because Ava DuVernay, who directed A Wrinkle in Time, has been signed on, not for a Marvel movie, not for a Star Wars movie, she was rumored for both, but in fact, a DC movie. That's right, Ava DuVernay is going to be tackling the directing job of The New Gods. The New Gods were a creation, of course, by Jack the King Kirby back in the 70s, and they are one of the most prolific and mythological little corners of the DC universe. Now, I was not the biggest fan of A Wrinkle in Time. I'm going to go as far as to say it was not a good movie. I mean, it's the only Ava DuVernay film I've seen. So I like to give directors the benefit of the doubt and think, if they make a big studio picture like that, maybe the studio's grubby little fingers got in the way. It happens a lot. So maybe if I watch something like Selma, something that's more her baby, I'll appreciate her work more. But just judging by what I saw from A Wrinkle in Time, that is, New Gods is not looking good. And it's a shame because the New Gods characters are a big part of the DC universe. I mean, Darkseid, who is, arguably the baddest dude in DC. I would say he's like the number one primo king villain to end all villains when it comes to DC. He's the Thanos of DC, essentially. And they were supposed to be teasing him in Batman v Superman and Justice League, but that never really came about. He is apparently supposed to be the villain in Justice League 2. New Gods is where this guy popped up first. He's the big dude, the big cheese on Apocalypse. He's basically the god there. So when you have these two planets at the fulcrum of this movie, Apocalypse and New Genesis, I'm assuming you're going to show us Darkseid, which is cool. Yeah, show him before Justice League 2. I'm down with that. But if our first look at Darkseid is going to be through the same lens that gave us A Wrinkle in Time, that's where Andrew gets a little bit scared. I want Darkseid to be done well. He's one of the best comic book villains out there. He's one of my favorite comic book villains. And I want to see him done well. I want him to look great on film. I want him to be played by somebody who can bring some gravitas to the role and don't just take the lazy way out and get Josh Brolin because his voice is deep. You need to do him justice. You need to get Darkseid right, or it's going to be a huge waste and you're going to disappoint a lot of people. So, Ava, if you are in fact going to be the first director to bring Darkseid to the big screen, I hope you do it well. And I'm rooting for you, girl. Give us some good Darkseid. Give us some Big Barda and Mr. Miracle and all that good jazz. But most importantly, make Darkseid sexy. Hashtag make Darkseid sexy. Now, speaking of superheroes and Josh Brolin, Deadpool 2 has been stirring up some cauldrons full of controversy where its test screenings are concerned. According to a handful of reports, the test screenings of Deadpool 2 have not been, shall we say, kosher. A bunch of people have taken to Twitter, bloggers and critics and the like, to say that the test screening for Deadpool 2 ended up abysmally bad, much worse than they thought it would. And that has prompted the film to go into massive reshoots. I believe reshoots are happening right now in Vancouver. But then other reports are saying that those reports of a negative test screening are unfounded, and that the test screening went swimmingly and everything's just fine, and the reshoots are just normal par for the course reshoots. So there are a lot of stories about Deadpool 2's screening absolutely sucking, and a lot of reports of Deadpool 2's screening going perfectly fine. Here's what I think is going on, okay? The Deadpool movies are nothing if not brilliant with their marketing. The amount of marketing for the first Deadpool and how great it all was. Like they did the 12 Days of Deadpool, and just everything was just spot on. And it's looking the same for this. I believe that this whole story about a bad test screening is part of Fox's marketing for this movie. That's right. I think we're being spoon-fed some meta marketing. I think that this is all part of their little ingenious, breaking of the fourth wall that they want to do, and they do it so well. I will go on record right now and bet that when Deadpool 2 comes out in theaters, there's going to be a reference in the movie to the movie screening poorly. There's going to be a reference to that whole poor screening debacle, whether or not it was true, because I don't believe it was. This sounds like a pre-constructed little bit of fun that Fox is having. That's where I stand, baby. I think Deadpool 2 is toying with us, because if anybody can do that, it's Deadpool 2. If you haven't heard the name Taika Waititi yet, you better start getting used to hearing it. Apart from being the director of such really fun movies as What We Do in the Shadows and Thor Ragnarok, Taika Waititi is a brilliant, talented writer and director all across the board, and he has a new movie coming out in about a year that is really stirring up some controversy. The movie is called Jojo Rabbit, and it is about, stick with me here because this is tough to explain, it's about a 10-year-old boy growing up in Nazi Germany who suffers from a poor relationship with his father. His father is very distant. So, growing up amongst Nazi propaganda, this 10-year-old boy has a incorrect and idealized, naive version in his brain of what Adolf Hitler is like. And in this movie, Jojo Rabbit, the 10-year-old boy who misses his relationship with his father conjures up an imaginary friend who happens to be what he believes Adolf Hitler is like. And according to some of the reports, Taika Waititi himself will play this imaginary Hitler friend. This sounds like it could be very sweet and very hilarious. This has Taika Waititi written all over it. This guy's just a ballsy writer. He just throws stuff out there and he's like, yep, we're gonna do it, and we're gonna do it 110%. This is just one of those instances where, when you hear about a movie coming out and you're like, I don't know how that's gonna work, but if anybody can make it work, it's that director. That's how I feel about Jojo Rabbit. If anybody can make a 10-year-old boy imagining an idealistic homeland hero in Adolf Hitler filling in as the proxy for his absentee father, Taika Waititi is the man to do that. I'm one of those people who really puts a lot of value on original content. Original stories, original concepts, all that stuff. That's like gold to me. So Jojo Rabbit, I'm looking forward to whatever craziness you bring to the table. I can't wait to see Taika Waititi play an imaginary Hitler. If you were a fan of The Nightmare Before Christmas, you are in luck. The director of Nightmare Before Christmas, Henry Selick, is teaming up with Netflix to give you another stop-motion animated film. This one is called Wendell and Wilde, and it's the story of two demons running amok, causing all manner of crazy trouble. And those demons are going to be played by Jordan Peele and Keegan-Michael Key. Now, as a big Key and Peele fan, this makes me excited. However, I'm not a fan at all of The Nightmare Before Christmas. I know. I'm probably the only person on the planet who doesn't like this movie. I just don't get it. I don't see the appeal. I remember renting that when it came out on video from Blockbuster, RIP, way back in the day. So whatever year that was, I was a little kid. I was the right age for that movie, but I was not enchanted by it in the slightest. I remember finishing watching it and thinking to myself, I didn't care about any of those characters because they were the most two-dimensional characters I had seen at that point. And I don't see the appeal at all of that movie. And I know that I'm going to be kicked out of every hot topic that I ever walk into from this point forward, but that's my story and I'm sticking to it. Now, am I excited that Key and Peele are playing two mischievous demons? Yes. Would I prefer that they'd be playing two mischievous demons in any other property other than a Henry Selick stop-motion movie? Yes. Because if The Nightmare Before Christmas is any indication, it's just going to be blech. The 25th James Bond movie finally has its director, and it is Danny Boyle. That's right, Danny Boyle, the man himself, is stepping up to the plate to direct the 25th James Bond and the final Daniel Craig Bond film. I'm very happy about this. I love Danny Boyle. Slumdog Millionaire was excellent. Trainspotting is excellent. I mean, he's just one of those great directors who just keeps pumping out great stuff over and over again. And I really love Daniel Craig, and I want to see him come back as Bond one more time in something that's a little bit better than Spectre. That's what I want to see. But already some news has surfaced regarding Bond 25 because, as usual, Danny Boyle is not just going to be sitting behind the camera directing, he's also penning the script. And Mr. Boyle has some very modern ideas about where to take this script. According to a report from Esquire, Danny Boyle is looking to pen a James Bond script that is a bit more forward-thinking, a bit more feminist than normal James Bond movies. He has dropped some comments saying that he's looking towards the recent #MeToo and #TimesUp movements when it comes to the portrayal of women in the film. Boyle was quoted in a report by The Independent saying, quote, "You write in real time. You acknowledge the legacy of the world and you write in the world. But you also write in the modern world as well." This makes a lot of sense. Coming from somebody who loves James Bond and who, watches them regularly, if you go back and watch any early Bond, watch any of like the first 10 Bond movies, they are very mean to women. they are. It is sad. It is an archaic way of thinking. Most of those early ones were adapted from Ian Fleming novels. And Ian Fleming was kind of a dinosaur. From bits and pieces I have read of those novels, they could get very sexist, very homophobic. They were just very backwards thinking novels. And a lot of that was reflected in the early Bond films. I mean, Sean Connery would, he had no trouble with any of that. If a woman started talking, he wasn't having it. And obviously we don't live in that world anymore. The Bond movies, I see them as time capsules. Dr. No is so quintessentially 60s, and then something like Live and Let Die is so quintessentially 70s. View to a Kill is so 80s, etc. It makes perfect sense to me for Bond 25 to be so 2018. Now, whether or not this is going to be a good movie, that's still up for debate, but I don't think you can make movies anymore the way they did back then. It's not cool. I doubt this means we'll see a scene in Bond 25 where Bond, goes to kiss a girl and she's like, #MeToo. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think that he's going to, Danny Boyle is going to make James Bond a bit more of a gentleman, a bit less handsy than he normally would be. I would be fine with there not being a romantic side to this movie. Granted, the way Spectre ended, Bond was pretty much set in a relationship with that new girl. If this is going to disregard that and throw a new female character into the mix, I would be fine with her just being, another secret agent. Some traditions are okay to break, and I don't think Bond needs to keep having sex with random women, because I think that tradition specifically is from that bygone era. It's from that, I'll have you and you and you, like that era is done. I think that, like, if you're worried that this is going to turn into some, like, social justice kind of movie, I don't think that's the case. I think Danny Boyle's just going to do something along the lines of, maybe Bond doesn't go for the romance this time around. Maybe the woman involved is like, what, I don't have time for this. I have to stop these arms dealers. So either help me or stay out of my way. And that's all you need. That is a respectful take on this woman character, whoever she may be. So that concludes this edition of Real Deal. I'm Andrew Fantasia, and of course you can send your I can't believe you don't like Nightmare Before Christmas hate mail to andrewfantasia@hatemail.com. I'll see you on the next episode of Real Deal. Until then, adios.